Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Jesus Christ, a lot's happened since we last spoke, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's really good to be back with you, mate. Really good to be back with
Cheers.
you. You've been away and a lot has changed. The way that you left the country it's been completely different to when you came back, but it's lovely to have you back, mate. Very good to be back as a duo and previewing some football matches as we do best, with everything else aside.
Absolutely, mate. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. But before we get into this, guys, we do have a message from today's video sponsor. That is OneFootball. As I'm sure you guys are aware, OneFootball is the go-to app that me and Dan use for stats, for news, for updates, team news, whatever it is you can think of. OneFootball has it. And at the moment, mate, I know we've mentioned it on previews before, but they have broadcasting rights to the Italian Serie A, which has been absolutely amazing. Being able to watch that for free on your phone. I know you've been doing it, mate. I've been doing it too. Just OneFootball. If you guys need OneFootball, if you guys haven't got OneFootball, make sure you check out the top link in the description because we use it every day, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much going on. Serie A is a wonderful league, and I saw they've got the Super Classico as well now. So they've got some rights for some other football, which you can watch live on the app as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there, as well as all the other stuff which you mentioned, like the team news and the live updates and all the latest football gossip and stuff like that. It's what basically powers the Villa Filler podcast. So that's as good a report as we can give it. So yeah, guys, we can't recommend it enough.
Absolutely. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do so by using the link in the description. It helps us out and it will help you guys out as well. But Dan, Southampton, obviously, we were coming into this sort of period after two very difficult games against Arsenal and Manchester City. And looking at Leicester, which was obviously postponed for unknown reasons, Southampton as well. These were two fixtures where Villa really needed to pick up points, especially after the performance against Manchester City, because I've had a lot of time to sit and think about that, mate, as I'm sure you have and everyone else. That was a bloody good game. It really was a really good game of football. And I think I may have spoke about it or even referred to it as a win in so many times, but just because it felt like that, it really did. The fact that we managed to sort of claw our way back and it's just the manner of the performance. And I think, to be fair to both of us, mate, I think we have maintained for the long. I know when you were away, I kind of almost lost my mind at the thought of Steven Gerrard being Villa manager. But I feel like it's something that we've always maintained with whoever has been in charge, whether that be Dean or even Steve Bruce. Even to the very end of Steve Bruce, I was very much like, come on, guys, let's just, it could work out. You know, there was a slight part of me that was, you know, trying to convince myself that it could work and that I should back the manager regardless of what I was seeing on the pitch. I feel like that draw against Manchester City is absolutely huge for Steven Gerrard's future, for Aston Villa's future. And it's interesting, mate. I don't know if you saw the overlap extra that they did the other week with.
I didn't actually.
Okay, so they did an extra. They did a bonus few shows. The overlap.
Oh, with Ornstein and stuff.
David Ornstein and Carl Andrew
Yes.
of the Athletic. Yeah, they also did one with like Robbie from AFTV and a few others. But I've never actually. I've followed David Ornstein and I've read his work quite frequently, but I've never heard him speak. So, you know, he always seems like he's a sensible guy. He's got his head screwed on. Obviously, he's kind of, for me at least, he's the go-to transfer guy now. He's overtaken Fabrizio Romano. If anything's worth knowing or anything needs knowing, this guy knows it first. And they spoke about the situation that Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard find themselves in, because obviously last week there was that column, maybe 2 weeks ago now, from Jamie Carragher, where he essentially brown noses his mate Steven Gerrard, which I don't think we should really chastise him for, because at the end of the day, it is his best mate. But talk about tone deaf, I guess. But that's just that's the British media in general, right? Really, how they're all kind of looking out for each other. But this got brought up, and David Ornstein is probably one of the only people in the media at the moment that not only recognised how poor the situation has been, which is like very rare for anybody in the media to know, like outside of being a Villa fan or Villa media or whatever, to realise how crap we've actually been and call us out for it, and also call Steven Gerrard out for it. But he also said that he didn't feel like, or, you know, from what he knows, that should we lose against Leicester, that it would be he's getting the boot straight away, or Southampton, he's getting the boot straight away. But he did kind of pick up on a vibe that we're not happy, and should things continue, I think, I'm fairly sure, maybe if you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm fairly sure he said, you know, he has till the World Cup, which is something that, again, we've maintained on here as well. I just found it really interesting because it's nice to actually hear somebody who, for one, kind of knows what they're talking about when it comes to a club outside of the top six, irrespective of whether it's Villa or, you know, Crystal Palace or whoever, you know. But, you know, very long and convoluted way of me saying, this does, again, I don't want to label this as a must-win game, but should Villa not win this game, it almost undoes the hard work and effort that went into this, again, this draw that felt like such a win against Manchester City.
Yes, mate. Yeah, it's one of those where, from a selfish point of view, I think Villa could have done without the postponement of the Leicester game, because it did feel like if we could, that was a really good chance of another win, basically, against a team that's, you know, probably the worst team in the league. I think it's Leicester in terms of how they started the season, one of, if not the worst teams in the league. And so it did feel like we had a good chance of going and getting a win there, especially because it did feel like we were riding, I don't want to say riding a wave because we've been rubbish and then we got a draw, and it was a good draw against Manchester City, but it's not like, you know, we were riding like 3 wins in a row. But that draw did feel like, and we said it on here, mate, it was like, this could be a turning point. It's like, this is the sort of performance that galvanizes a fan base, that buys Stevie more time, that makes us believe that, okay, like maybe there is something in this. And it felt like if we went to the King Power and we got a result, then we would have been in a really good position going into this game. And you can look at it one or two ways, and you can say that, okay, this period where we've had a break between the fixtures has stunted momentum, and we have to not get going from square one, but in terms of like getting ourselves back up to this fixture, trying to feed off that Man City game has just got a little bit harder. Or you could flip it the other side and say it's extra time on the training pitch, it's extra preparation. Some guys like Matty Cash, who looks like he's not going to be available and won't be going with Poland for these games, gives Ash more time to train with the boys, to get further embedded into the setup and stuff like that. There's some, you know, we've got guys playing for Southampton who could cause us some real problems. And there's some guys in that team that Stevie will know really well, like Joe Aribo and stuff like that, who we've got extra time to prepare for. So it depends on which way you look at the coin. But it's going to be a difficult game, mate. It's going to be a difficult game. I think I was quite glad to be playing away from home as well, which is the other element of the Leicester game. I think we both spoke about how we counterattack very well in the Man City game, and playing away from home lends itself into that. But at home, we're probably going to be the dominant side in this game. But that being said, we got a brilliant result against them last time at home. It was one of, if not the performances of last season, I think it's fair to say. And Stevie's got a good chance to really right some wrongs. And if we can get another win here, mate, which certainly isn't the question, because the mood wasn't exactly great before we played them at home last time, was it? It was sort of, I'm not going to say a similar situation, but we weren't playing great going into the game. And in many ways, it came out of nowhere, really. So Stevie has bought himself some time. And if there's one thing that we have learned from the whole Dean Smith saga and everything like that, is that the grass is not always greener on the other side. Yeah. It's not been a smooth transition into the Gerrard era. I don't think there are an abundance of managers right now out there that we could go and get. And so, yeah, let's see, mate. Let's see. I think that City game has certainly shown to us that Stevie can give this a fair crack of the whip. And who knows, mate, if we can go and get a win, which totally isn't out of the question, then I think things could look quite different for Villa.
Yeah, that's the thing in it, man. But what is worrying is if you sort of, look at the numbers, and of course, if we're turning the corner, that's fine, and these numbers don't really matter at all. But at the moment, mate, per 90 expected goals against for Aston Villa, we're expected to concede 1.65 goals per 90, and our expected goals per 90 is only 0.806, which is quite worrying. That's nearly, that's pretty much a 2-1 loss every time almost if you manage to score. And we've only scored 5 goals this whole season. I know we're 6 games in the Premier League, but 5 goals, especially when you kind of look, okay, we've played Arsenal, we've played Manchester City. The goal against Arsenal is going to be almost a 0 in terms of XG for Douglas's corner goal. I get that, but to only score 1 against Crystal Palace, not score against West Ham as bad as they were, not even managed to score against Bournemouth. That's what is worrying. And, especially again, if you look at the numbers against Manchester City, we had 3 attempts, 1 on target, and we scored from that 1. So you can take that as, okay, Villa were able to be clinical when it mattered most in this high pressure situation. But if we're only creating a limited amount of chances, and again, that was only against Manchester City, but it's cause for concern because again, how are we going to line up in this game, mate? Because against Manchester City, Steven Gerrard dropped both Felipe Coutinho and Emi Buendia. He went bold, and he even brought John McGinn off. So how is this going to work? Obviously, we've got Dendoncker who can come into the side as well. I think the front 3 or 2, obviously, because we know we've kind of got 2 systems, could potentially decide how this game goes. Because when you look at Southampton, and again, they can be flexible, but it seems like they've been playing a 4-2-3-1 again with a bit of a double pivot. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I forgot he played for them as well. There's so many, we were talking about this off air, mate, so many players that have sort of gone under the radar. Because usually Southampton it's either 4-2-3-1 or it's 4-4-2. If it's a 4-4-2 day, that's brilliant. Let's pack that midfield. Let's absolutely look to overrun them, create chances that way, dominate possession. But I'm a bit unsure on how this one's going to go, mate. Because you look at the squad now that Southampton are building, and Ward-Prowse always a threat. But again, Maitland-Niles, we know he's a willing runner. He's a late arriver into the box. He's going to be that double pivot's going to be quite interesting. Should that be the combination? Joe Aribo as well. We know this is a guy who's got ability. Che Adams, I wouldn't rule him out scoring against us either, mate. Being former Blues. How do you see this one going? I don't want to know how you hope. How do you? How are we seeing it right now? Because obviously there's been this 2-week layoff, which is less than ideal.
Yeah. It's really hard to say, mate. It really is hard to say. It feels like an age since that Manchester City game, doesn't it? So it's sort of really hard to gauge where we're at. I'm trying to see it on a positive side and think that for guys like Dendoncker and Bednarek, it's almost a mini pre-season. A chance to get loads of time on the training pitch to get used to their new teammates and the environment. It means that we're not throwing them in to sort of go out there and learn all that stuff on their feet in a game situation. So if we are thinking of putting those guys into a team, then the break has been beneficial because it's, that they didn't foresee that they'd get basically 2 weeks on the training pitch. And we'll have a lot more of that, obviously, as with the international break and everything like that. I know Bednarek is going away, but so for those guys, maybe it's been beneficial. But it's really hard to say where we're at the moment, isn't it? Because it does feel like forever ago, and it's really interesting you bring up the amount of goals we've scored and everything like that, because that for me is probably the biggest criticism of Steven Gerrard, is that we have so much great attacking talent. Ollie Watkins, Leon Bailey, Danny Ings, Emi Buendia, Felipe Coutinho, like the list goes on and on and on. And the fact that we haven't managed to get a coherent attack out of those guys yet is probably the biggest criticism of Gerrard. But as I said, mate, it was probably Coutinho's best game in a Villa shirt. that home game last season against Leicester where he got that goal and assist. And so hopefully it's more like that we can channel. And I don't think we have to be amazing. I don't think it's going to be an incredible game in terms of quality. I think it's going to be very tight. I don't think we're going to need to put like 3 or 4 goals away like we did last time. I think this could easily be done by 1 goal, maybe 2. I think it's going to be quite a cagey game, especially after that break and everything like that, as teams get back like used to it and everything like that. So I really don't think there's going to be a lot in this one, mate. But with my positive hat on, I think we will introduce guys like Dendoncker to the team and stuff like that. And I think that extra time on the training pitch will have been really beneficial for them.
And I think a word on Jacob Ramsey, mate, because, again, we've mentioned before, he's capable of playing in this left wing, let's say, position. And I think it really suited the game against Manchester City in terms of getting in and behind the full-backs, creating havoc there, staying high and wide, but, being a willing dribbler and, to mention his name, be almost Grealish-esque, right? Be that direct, be the ball carrier. I think that worked really well. And it'd be interesting because, you look at this Southampton team, Kyle Walker-Peters on the right-hand side, that's going to be the outlet. Obviously, Tino Livermento's injured and has been for a while. Walker-Peters is thriving again. Now he's back on his preferred side at right back. He's having a decent season. So, sort of ruffling his feathers, getting in and behind him, I think that's going to be key. Nice as well to see that Romeo Lavia is going to be out injured because he is a fantastic player. They've done really well. They've taken a risk, I guess, really on him, and he's been absolutely fantastic so far. And so I saw a tweet from AVFC Stato, so shout out to them. They did a mini thread on Ashley Young, who again to run for a Manchester City game. Unreal, man of the match, absolutely. Apparently, Villa earn 1.7 points per game on average when Ashley Young is in the side. Now, when he's not in the side, Villa are only averaging 0.9 points per game. I think it's easy to look at Ashley Young and go, well, he's not a very sexy option. He's not very quick. He's old. And, I remember having this sort of brief conversation with my dad in the stands at the Man City game. He was thinking, oh God, why can't we put Chambers on? But, I think when you're that old and you're that professional, the first yard is always in your head. Positionally, Ashley Young was fantastic. Phil Foden did not get a sniff. Even managed to win foot races with Foden and Kevin De Bruyne, being, sometimes 5 yards further back, managing to catch up with them and then maintain at a pace. Obviously, it's not a viable option every week to play Ashley Young at right back, and I'm not saying that, but the experience he has, the nous, the knowledge, the leadership as well, which I think is really important, and what we needed specifically in that Manchester City game is someone who, when the team had been pretty fucking stinking for the past couple of games, to really come in and set some standards, do the basics right. Nothing was overcomplicated. And again, I think that kind of experience, that's going to be invaluable against Southampton here, because Ashley Young knows how to win football games, and this is a must-win football game in essence, really.
Yeah, he was fantastic, mate. And I think if he can play like he did against Manchester City, I've got absolutely no problem with him being replacing Matty Cash for this period, who hasn't quite hit the same heights this season as he did last, really, or so it feels. So yeah, I welcome Ashley to the side. Hopefully he can offer more of what he does. He seemed so driven when he came on, and I don't think that's something that will go away. And I think he's a wily old campaigner. He's a steely option, as you said. You don't have quite as much faith of him, like with him getting up that flank in the same way that Cash does, but you forget that he is right-footed. Like, he's been playing obviously so much football as a left back, but he's an inverted left back. So right back should be the position actually he's playing if you want to talk about traditional fullbacks. And I think he slotted in there really well, mate. And I think that certainly calmed a few nerves. And I feel people are a bit more relaxed, the idea of him coming in and filling Matty Cash's boots because of how he played against Man City, which was a man of the match performance. Let's have it right. Like, he really stood out for Villa. So if we can get more of the same out of him, mate, I think we'll be just fine.
Absolutely. And before we go, mate, going to need a score prediction. It's been a while.
Sir. 2-1 the Villa.
2-1.
Yep.
It'd be nice to keep a clean sheet in this one. Are we?
It would. It would be nice.
It would be nice. You're not very confident. It's funny because I think there's a lot of chat about the defence, right? And there are very quiet conversations because people must be scared to even utter their opinion on Emi Martinez's form, which some label as questionable. And again, it's something that I've maintained for the longest time. The midfield makes the defence look so much worse than it is. The defence is put under so much needless pressure because the midfield has not been right for the longest time. Hopefully, if you get a Dendoncker and Kamara double pivot, and then you've got either Dougie, you've got Super John, JJ, whoever you want to place there, that is a much more balanced midfield. And hopefully, Villa will concede less goals. Hopefully. I hope I'm right there. I think that's...
Fingers crossed.
That's the thing. I think, and everyone goes, oh, the lockdown year, this, that, we were so good defensively. Yeah, because Jack Grealish held the ball for 90 minutes. Nobody had to do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like when we were in possession, he had the ball. There was no sort of real responsibility on anyone else. So that of course the defence is going to look a lot better when you've got somebody who's willing to look after the ball. So yeah, I'm going to back the midfield to step up big time, and I am going to go 1-0. I don't think it'll be sexy. I just think as long, again, if we get the job done here again today, who is it after this? Obviously, we've got a break. We've got Leeds away, which Jesse Marsch will be doing serving a touchline ban for. You kind of feel like you have to win that game as well. Obviously, Leeds are a very good side, but a win to take us into the international break, it's just needed. 1-0. I'll go with that. I'll be buzzing with that, to be perfectly honest. And let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give us your score predictions, give us your thoughts ahead of this game. If you haven't checked out OneFootball, make sure you do so using the top link in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.